What's up, guys, and welcome back to today's video journal. Today was a rough day in the markets. Just as a heads up, I will start putting timestamps in the description so it's a bit easier for you guys to check the different portions of the video that you are actually enjoying, because obviously I'm rambling quite a bit. So I always just go over the trade stats and then go into the actual trade recaps. So today was actually a rough day on the Lucid funded accounts. As you can see, I had two full losing trades. So usually the cap I have was 520. The $19 come like from commissions, fees, and then obviously slippage, because you don't get perfectly taken out at $250 per trade. This is the first time on the funded account that we actually had two losing trades in a day. So far it's been very nice. Always like losing trade, less than a losing trade, made a bit more full, even more than the 500. As you can see, a good theme running here. And then obviously this week before that was like, break even. Yesterday, nice trade. And then bam, got absolutely slapped today on the Lucid account on YM. And then on Mafu, I trade in Q. So here you can see also rough start, because as you can see by this beautifully split round circle, we had one winning trade, one losing trade. So we had a losing trade of $261 Heros, and then we had a winning trade of $591, which finally was a winning trade or winning day on the Mafu account. I really cannot catch a break on this one, apparently. Obviously, we are still very far below the 50K, but at least we have some more buffer now on the drawdown. And then let's jump into the actual trade recaps. Let's start with NQ, because probably that's what most people are interested, because I don't know, everybody just trades NQ. So this looks maybe a bit, full, but trust me, it's not that much. It's not that deep. Let's go over the different levels I had drawn out for today. So obviously we had previous week high and still the NVIDIA earning gap to the upside. This was something I was interested in trading today, because obviously there was this green dashed line, this overnight high. So trading into here wouldn't have been something crazy. Let's see, that would have been like 180 points, no biggie for NQ. And then this pointed dotted line is previous day close from trading view itself. And then it said like, this was the previous day high from Wednesday. So this is right here, where momentum slowed down. Then this was Monday high right over here. As you can see, multiple touch points on that level. So this was from last week, I think Friday. I cannot see right now because of the loom. But as you can see, we tested this level multiple times, and it was obviously important to the market. And then I had, next to that, I had the Tuesday gap still, just as a reminder, on the charts. So this was on midnight when the market opened, when we had this huge sell-off to the downside. As you can see, this gap level of 25,000, maybe this was also psychological level, was respected multiple times. You can see on the 1 hour all these wicks that went up to the downside, also at open, right, or like during the 3 p.m. or like 9 a.m. candle, pushed to the upside, tested previous day highs, and then had this big sell-off of like 400 points. And the other levels to the downside ahead is this previous day open. I talked about it yesterday in the trade recap video about it. Is technically this was the true previous day high from Tuesday when the market opened and sold off. I was not that interested in it because it was just a random point in the market. I mapped out the intraday session where the stock market was open. That is the high that I had mapped out. This is also, as you can see, a level that was respected here. And as you can see, was a good level I chose. This is where the market halted today, and not here at where like technically the real Tuesday high was. And then we had like weekly open, previous day low from Wednesday, but obviously this was not of interest to the market today. Then let's jump into the 5-minute and let's go into replay mode. And let me show you what I traded. So what I saw at this point was we already retested the previous day high. We consolidated a little bit through the Monday high, and then we had this sell-off. So this is not ideal for me, because usually I like to trade first with the touch points of these higher time frame levels, and then use something more intraday like the 5-minute opening range to build more of an entry from there. So for me, it was really like either we sell into the previous day high from Tuesday, or we reclaim Monday high, tried for a continuation, something like this, which is also what happened, I believe. And yeah, I think I took a trade pretty early. Let me check for a second. So first trade was at 41. So we can still stay on the 5-minute candle. So first candle opened up on the 5-minute on NQ, pushed up like crazy. You know, obviously for some people this would have been a trend line breakout trade. I was actually considering, so this is the 3 a.m. It's a 9 a.m. candle. For me, it's 3 p.m. At this point, you know, it was very wicky. We sold off a little bit, and I was thinking about, just as yesterday, as I did on YM, if we get a candle flip, basically also breaking this trend line. So obviously, if you want to trade trend lines or not, it's up to you. But breaking this trend line would also mean that we flip the 1-hour candle, making it a bullish candle. I was like, maybe I can take a super aggressive trade if I think that Tuesday gap is respected, you know, entering at the 25,000, which was obviously psychological level respected multiple times here to the upside. And that would have been a very aggressive trade into Monday's high, which would have paid today, which I did not take, but I think it's an interesting trade idea to talk about. And then let's jump into the 1 minute, because at this point, the 5-minute opening range was obviously established. And all I was looking for here was maybe a slight push to the upside, you know, retest, and then looking for a continuation trade to the upside into previous day's high. And the target I had in mind is I use these high time frame levels. So maybe for context, I draw them on the 1 hour. I use the wick to the body to draw these levels. So this is for me like a take profit area, because obviously I don't know if it will fill the whole wick, will it go above the wick. So usually I look at the entire box and choose a target from there. And since we had the psychological level of 25,200, that was the level I was looking for. And then let's see, I think, we close above the opening 5-minute range. So for me to take a trade, I have to wait for the market to create at least one low, like higher low, at least one new low. I did not consider this a new low. And then so I can enter on the first new high that is created in an uptrending market. Okay, boom. So here we had the first proper new low established. So I could have taken a trade off here, entering at the 25,100. I believe this is not what happened. Yeah, market first pushed back into the 5-minute opening range. So what I wanted to play was play it a bit more aggressive. I did not want to wait for, you know, first break above 5-minute opening range, you know, retesting and then going to the upside. I was like, okay, we already had a nice push up, nice pullback. I don't know if the market will move that slow. I play it in the sense of that we have a 5-minute opening range break, not break and retest, and then targeting the 25,200. So I had like a limit order here. I believe on the next candle I was tagged in. Yeah, maybe it's a bit hard to see, but I was tagged in here, and my stop loss was right at the low of this candle, not the previous candle, because then the stop loss would have been too wide. I would have over risked on this trade. And then, like I said, targeting the 200, but in this case, I think not this candle, but the next candle immediately, you know, we failed this. Obviously, we were not able to trade with continuation. Momentum was halted. We stayed inside the 5-minute opening range, but at this point I was still looking. I try not to do this too many times, but I was still considering taking a trade on the continuation of the same move. Let me just check for a second. So 47, yeah. So I was like, as long as we can get back above the 5-minute opening range, you know, take out all these wicks, like go above all these wicks, I still want to look for the same kind of trade. And then, actually, I don't need this. 47, yeah, so here. So we still sold off a bit more into the 5-minute opening range, and then we had this very strong bullish candle. And when this one closed, I think it closed right at over the 25,100. So I was like, I don't want to wait for like the next high that is being created, because this would give me a very bad stop loss placement like inside of this candle. I was like, as soon as this thing closed, I was like, let's just jump into it. Stop loss below this candle, because this was 40 points. So in the sense of like, if this once again bounces back like Monday's high, wants to stay inside the range, then obviously I would have been wrong. This would have been played too aggressively, but lucky me, this is not what happened. So we had a nice little push up. Probably, you know what, I could maybe save myself some grief, or like maybe time in the trade. I could have maybe taken another trade from like the retest of the 5-minute opening range, but to be honest, you know, would have been just like, I don't know, 6 points difference, so no biggie. And then we perfectly hit the 25,200 that I was targeting. To be honest, kind of lucky today because the market just went above like 10 more points before it was setting off very hard, as everybody saw. But reason being, I was not interested in taking a trade even like higher to the upside, is because we already had a very strong move through upside. It was like 130 points, and then we had like the swing, this pullback, and this was another like 150 point move. And obviously there's still stuff happening in the world, as you guys probably know. So I was not expecting this thing to just like rally up, I don't know, 300 points into my next high time frame target. So I was content with taking a 2.4 hour trade. And this was my session on NQ. And then let's jump into YM for anybody that's interested, because I think there probably are also people trading YM. And it's also an interesting pair. All right, let's jump. This is painful to see, but it is what it is, okay? This is obviously the 1 hour. I always use the 1 hour to establish my high time frame levels. So we had, same as NASDAQ, I had the Tuesday gap mapped out, which also was like psychological level, maybe 48,900, and obviously very close to the 49K. So as you can see, Tuesday gap was respected a lot of times. Market ranged even while the stock market was open on Wednesday. You know, we couldn't go above the Tuesday gap fill. And then we also kind of retested this here during the overnight session at 10 a.m. I don't know what time this is for you guys, okay? It's German time, 10 a.m. And then we had these highs as well. Monday high, so this was the high that was created on Monday. Friday low, this was from previous week, the Friday low. As you can see, this level has been touched multiple times here on Friday, then overnight session Monday, then we halted here during Tuesday overnight session, then Tuesday intra session. You know, as you can see, this level was super important. And then to the downside, weekly open, previous day low, from Wednesday, and then January low. This level, obviously, I had this mapped out because, as you can see on the Tuesday overnight session, this is kind of where we stopped. But today, this was, I mean, maybe this 1 hour, you know, tapped it, retraced a bit, and then went to the downside. And then the next level I had was the Tuesday low right down here. All right, this is for all the high time frame levels. Let's jump into the 5 minute and into the replay mode. So same trade idea in the beginning that I did not take, but was technically interesting to me, was the breakout, very aggressive breakout trade if you want to trade trend lines. So we had this very strong trend line. At this point, the 9 a.m. candle opened. We had a small wick to the downside, and it would have been interesting also because here, another confluence, we had the weekly open. So basically, if this candle flipped from bearish to bullish, going through the weekly open at like 48,450, targeting, you know, Friday's high would have been a nice trade. And then let's just, I think this happened pretty fast. So let's switch to the 1 minute immediately. So I did not take this like breakout trendline trade, but we had on YM a slow push to the upside, not as strong as NQ. And here, let me see. Yeah, so at this point we had the 5 minute opening range established. Let's just draw this out really quickly. So I was just looking for a continuation to the upside. Same with NQ. I didn't want today wait for like, you know, break, retest, entering on the continuation. I played this in the sense of like the moment we create a new low, a first new low, I want to enter on the next high that is being created, having a confluence of the 5 minute opening range break, not break and retest, okay? So let's see, I think, yeah, so first new low was created. So for me, this was even like better, quote unquote. But I put a limit order right here. And I think stop loss is for me always 80 points. So technically weekly open would have been a level that could have been retested, but I still think, you know, this was like respected many times. So I did not think it would be retested. Got tagged in on this candle and then just got absolutely smacked on the next candle. This was one of those trades where you like enter, immediately get smacked by the market. Is like, okay, this obviously was the wrong trade idea. And then I did something maybe not so ideal, but you know, it is what it is. Market sold off and stayed inside for a second inside of the 5 minute opening range. But then we had a very like, you know, this was like, I did not see this as just a small pullback. because the market sold off pretty strong, and then we had this strong down close candle outside of the 5-minute opening range, taken out like the overnight high. Obviously this was created right before the session started, but I don't use like Asia low, London low. I really look at the low that was created while the stock market was not open, which was like literally just 5 minutes before the market opened. But we even closed below this level, and this is maybe where I was too aggressive, also given I already had one losing trade. Is obviously this is previous day low. This will be a very strong respected level, so the safer way would have been, okay, first confluence, 5-minute opening range, break. If I want to trade or I want to play a short here, wait for something that is going even maybe below this level or at least inside of this level. Let's say, obviously you cannot expect like a crazy huge sell-off like this. Let's say the market would have like traded into here, have a nice pullback, and then I could have anticipated, okay, we're gonna completely create new lows on the higher time frame, you know, having a bit more conservative entry, not like intra in this pullback, but really on the swing point of the 1 minute. But I kind of anticipated, technically, I mean, it happened, but just a bit later than I wanted to. So the market pulled back. So for me, like I always say, I need one new high being created first, you know, before I can enter on the downside to when the next low is created. So this was for me like a retest of the 5-minute opening range. Basically, we closed back inside, but I was like, as long as we get a new low here, then we're fine. This was also the confluence of like, you know, the 5-minute, not 5-minute, the overnight low is not of interest anymore. You know, we can sell through this. So I was tagged in on this candle. Stop loss was the 80 points. So this wigged. So this was a very protected trade. I think that was also on the 5-minute. Yeah, so it was like the high of the 5-minute candle. So I was like, if this thing's come back up, then obviously trade idea is invalidated. And for this trade, it was kind of tricky to have a target. But to be honest, what I wanted to target was the 48,100, which was right above January low. But obviously price bounced previous day low. You know, we chopped around, we created double top on the during the session before we had the actual proper huge sell-off, which you can see here. Like how I told you, you know, we should have waited for, obviously we traded very close into this level, but not that much. Okay, we bounced it immediately. That's what I was talking about, would have been the safer option. So having or seeing momentum really trade inside previous day low, then having the pullback and then entering on the proper, like, so what I sometimes do is obviously, maybe it's easier to see like this. So on the classic, like, you know, continuation trading, you have the chance of either the first new high or low that is created anywhere inside of this pullback, obviously, which is like the more aggressive play, or you really wait when the structure point or like the swing point is being taken out. So for this trade, maybe it's a bit easier to understand, is if you want to play it aggressive, okay, this is where, you know, the sell-off happened and we had a pullback. So the first new high was created. The moment market creates a new first low, you can enter, for my rules, you can immediately enter here and then, you know, have the same trade. Or if you want to play this a bit more, you know, not passive, like not as aggressive, you could have, it's hard to see now, but you could have taken a trade once this level was broken, because technically this was like the whole 1 minute swing point for me. So both, in this case, both trades would have been valid, and then the market sold off pretty heavily. But to be honest, yeah, maybe I could have traded this. Usually I try to trade the first 30 minutes of the session, because that's obviously where volatility is high. And then the max is like really, I don't want, like the max I always say is 415, where I want to enter a trade and then let it play out. So obviously with 411, this would have been valid. But having two losing trades, I try to immediately close the charts to avoid overtrading. But this would have played out very fine. I mean, to be honest, it was kind of crazy why I'm absolutely crashed to the downside. So we had quite the sell-off afterwards. Retest, as you can see, January low was an interesting level, obviously psychological level as well, but perfectly retested before we sold off and took out Tuesday low. So maybe for some future trading, if you're interested. This is why on the 1 hour, I feel like it's so easy to, you know, choose the higher time frame levels. As you can see, just draw a stupid simple, you know, so I don't, obviously it's support and resistance, but I try not to think about it. I do like box trading. So I always trade from level to level. I don't really care that much if it's like support, resistance. I just want to see how price reacts to these high time frame levels. And then, as I say, I use intraday things like 5-minute opening range and like pullbacks, yada, 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 to build trade ideas. And so here today we had a crazy big sell-off. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you this, but during this session, while I was looking actually when the long failed, I was very confident in sells was while I was obviously the session still happened. This was this is the candle on Tuesday, right? Wednesday was a crazy inside candle, like an inside bar, okay? The Wednesday candle was fully inside of the Tuesday candle. No high, no low was taken out. This was absolutely indecision at its finest. When the session opened today on Thursday, this was also an inside bar of the inside bar candle. So it was a double inside bar candle, which is a sign of indecision. I was like, with all the stuff that's happening right now, and as you can see, market is trending very strong. It's not like we had here after earnings seasons, there was like nothing happening. Price was just wicking around. Or maybe here it's like stuff's happening right now. Market is volatile. And then we absolutely bonkers sold off. I don't know what's today. On the top corner, you can see lost 1,000 points. So that's quite a bit for YM. And yeah, we took out yesterday low and even went into Tuesday low. But this is obviously all hindsight. 2020 vision. But as you can see, that's how I try to like build out trade ideas, not really thinking about like support resistance, but I just try to trade from level to level and don't go the English word become like overzealous and thinking of like we're just gonna break first, we're gonna break this level and then we're gonna break this level, okay? So something even from like Friday low to previous day low is like 400 points. That's a lot. I trade $3 per point on YM. So if you get something like a $300 point, that was easy math. So $900, and then you could have built the next trade idea that I was talking about, like with the deeper push into this level, retest going below. So trading from this level to this level. I mean, this was an insane trade. This actually did the whole shenanigans. Obviously, I was looking at the January low. I wasn't expecting it to go to the full Tuesday low, but maybe it's a bit easier to be like, okay, we get like 500 point trade, or let's say from here to here, like a 200 point trade. That's more realistic, at least for me. And yeah, maybe a bit more insight into how I trade for anyone that is interested. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this trade recap, and then I will see you tomorrow for the last session of this week, hopefully with another winning trade on NQ.